Welcome back to Left, Labor Education for Today. In our fourth edition of the weekly recap, the stakes are as high as ever, as workers continue to show solidarity for their passionate and aggressive workplace demands, and companies continue to dig their heels in. In our first story of the week, a concerning update with the Screen Actors Guild promises to wreak havoc on Hollywood. A couple weeks ago, I shared an update on the progress of negotiations between the Screen Actors Guild and the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. At the time, the contract expiration had been extended by the parties, and it seemed like both parties were making progress toward a tentative agreement. However, less than 2 weeks later, the Screen Actors Guild has officially announced the initiation of a strike as of July 14th, joining the Writers Guild on the picket lines for the first joint strike between these two groups since 1960. Being actors, there has been a ton of media attention and coverage on the struggle, including most recently widespread frustration about some comments made by Disney CEO Bob Iger. When asked by CNBC interviewer David Faber about the impact of a potential strike, Iger said, "Well, I think it's very disturbing to me. We've talked about disruptive forces on this business and all the challenges that we're facing and the recovery from COVID, which is ongoing. It's not completely back. This is the worst time in the world to add to that disruption." He later goes on to say, "There's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic, and they are adding to a set of challenges that this business is already facing that is quite frankly very disruptive and dangerous." So they're not being realistic? No, they're not. Why not? I can't answer that question. I respect their right and their desire to get as much as they possibly can in compensation for their people. I completely respect that. I've been around long enough to understand that dynamic and to appreciate it. But you also have to be realistic about the business environment and what the business can deliver. It is and has been a great business for all of these people and will continue to be even through disruptive times. But, being realistic is imperative here. Iger got predictably slammed on Twitter as well as across the media for the comments that were described by critics as tone-deaf and hypocritical, with many of those critics citing Iger's exorbitant annual total compensation of $27 million per year over the next 2 years. Following the announcement of the strike, the SAG-AFTRA president, Fran Drescher, delivered an intense statement relating to the gravity of the decision to go on strike, but categorizing it as a necessary decision given how much the industry has changed over just the last few years.
I went in earnest, thinking that we would be able to avert a strike. The gravity of this move is not lost on me, and so it came with great sadness that we came to this crossroads, but we had no choice. I am shocked by the way the people that we have been in business with are treating us. I cannot believe it, quite frankly. How far apart we are on so many things. How they plead poverty, that they're losing money left and right when giving hundreds of millions of dollars to their CEOs. The entire business model has been changed by streaming, digital, AI. This is a moment of history that is a moment of truth. If we don't stand tall right now, we are all going to be in trouble. This is a very big deal, and it weighed heavy on us. But at some point, you have to say no. You cannot change the business model as much as it has changed and not expect the contract to change too.
What are the two parties so far apart on that has led to the collapse of negotiations and the strike that we see here now today? I won't go into all of the details right now, but I did find a thorough summary online of the major and the minor disputes, so I'll go ahead and link that summary in the description. Among the major disputes are streaming revenue share, pay increases, and of course the use of artificial intelligence in the entertainment industry. With the actors now on strike, joining the Writers Guild of America also already having been on strike, there's no telling how long this work stoppage could continue, but it will have a significant impact on Hollywood and on the entertainment industry in the meantime. So I'll keep you posted on any updates. In our second story of the week, I promised I would keep you updated on UPS negotiations with the Teamsters. And although we still do not have a tentative agreement between the parties, there is a pretty interesting update for this week. Although the parties do remain close to a deal only a couple weeks prior to the contract expiration at the end of July, negotiations in Washington, D.C. have stalled as union organizers have left the area to engage in practice picketing with their UPS members across the country. In the meantime, UPS has decided to start training their supervisory staff to be able to maintain the safety and the continuity of business operations in the event of a Teamster strike at the end of the month. In their most recent statement, UPS writes, "While we have made great progress and are close to reaching an agreement, we have a responsibility as an essential service provider to take steps to help ensure we can deliver our customers' packages if the Teamsters choose to strike." Over the coming weeks, many of our U.S. employees will participate in training that would help them safely serve our customers if there is a labor disruption. It would be a tall task to replace over 340,000 unionized UPS workers across the country if there were to be a labor disruption, but an even more challenging task when you consider that the company's pilots, who are also unionized, represented by a different organization, have also pledged to strike in solidarity with the Teamsters if a deal is not agreed upon by the parties by the time the Teamsters do decide to go on strike. So the next 2 weeks will be very critical, and a lot of stakeholders from the U.S. government to business partners to regular people like you and me are all watching very closely. And in our third story of the week, we're talking again about Amazon. Only this week, we're focused on its warehouses and the Amazon labor union. Last week, we introduced the Teamsters and their strategy to organize Amazon through delivery service partners, like battle-tested strategies out of Palmdale, California. But this week, we're focused on the Amazon Labor Union, a different organization whose goal is to organize warehouses of Amazon workers across the country. And this week, the National Labor Relations Board officially issued an unfair labor practice complaint against Amazon based on their refusal to engage in collective bargaining with the Amazon Labor Union following a successful union election among Amazon warehouse workers at JFK 8, which is a Staten Island, New York-based warehouse that voted in favor of union organizing back in April of 2022, which was the first Amazon location in the country to make that choice. And unlike our situation with the Teamsters, these employees at JFK 8 are unquestionably Amazon employees, which begs the question of why isn't Amazon engaging in collective bargaining over this first contract? And the answer to that comes down to Amazon's belief that these employees were deprived of their right to a fair, free choice election, partially because the National Labor Relations Board interfered with that election, and partially because many voting Amazon employees were allegedly intimidated by the Amazon Labor Union leading up to that vote. And in a statement by Amazon spokesperson Mary Kate Paradis, she told CNBC, "As we've said since the beginning, we don't believe this election process was fair, legitimate, or representative of the majority of what our team wants." And with this week's NLRB complaint, the board is looking to compel Amazon to engage in collective bargaining, but they are also looking to make Amazon pay. Literally make employees whole for the lost opportunity to bargain over the last 12 plus months since that union election was certified by the board for those JFK 8 employees. Officially, Amazon has until July 26th to respond to the NLRB complaint. However, I think it's unlikely that we'll see any movement from Amazon, as they have made it clear that they are pushing their election dispute concerns through the appropriate appeals processes. And in the meantime, we've seen multiple reports of infighting amongst the highest ranking individuals at the Amazon Labor Union, specifically referring to the failure of the union's leadership to hold union elections. And that may be a story for another day, but it's certainly worth monitoring, as any disruption to the momentum of the Amazon Labor Union could certainly have an impact on the organizing success of JFK 8, as well as multiple other warehouses across the country. And those are our 3 stories for the week. I hope you enjoyed another weekly recap on labor education for today. Any feedback for me or for Left, feel free to drop a comment, and look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.